Ever since the LA fires took place earlier this year and how it was poorly handled by Governor Gavin Newsom, and especially after he recently openly criticized JD Vance for taking a vacation in Disneyland with his children, he's been dealing with a lot of backlash, and I mean a lot of backlash, even from those that once supported Governor Newsom just a couple of months ago. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new, and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, a lot of people have been coming out and calling out, Gavin Newsom endlessly, and the biggest one of all is Mel Gibson. We all know that he is a very big, open critic of Gavin Newsom, and he continues to actually do that, and rightfully so, because we already know that there's a lot of issues going on right now within the state of California. In fact, I know a lot of people over in that state that are very unhappy with the current situation, politically speaking, and how the overall living situation is going on over there. It's just not doing a good job at all. But what's interesting about this has a lot more to do with Mel Gibson really putting Gavin Newsom on full blast in the best way possible. Let's jump into this, shall we? Now, one interesting factor about all of this is that we already know that Mel Gibson is one that likes to call out those that are trying to protect things like DEI, illegal immigration, and all of this other nonsense out there. And we already know that Mel Gibson, look, we know that he's called out Gavin Newsom before in the past, and this, I think, is going to serve as the peak moment in which Mel really puts him in the hot seat and really exposes Gavin for who he really is. Now, look, we all know that ever since he actually criticized JD Vance, it created a second wave of backlash for 2025 directed at Gavin Newsom. Now, with Gavin now dealing with more backlash after getting very defensive with JD Vance for taking a vacation, like I said before, in Disneyland, one major development going on now involves Mel Gibson, who once again called out the governor of California and put him on full blast. Gibson delivered the following. Look, I'm a patriot and I believe that America is the greatest country on earth, and I'm not afraid to say it. But when you have a governor like Gavin Newsom openly criticizing our vice president and putting him to shame for taking advantage of what it means to be an American and what it means to be America, this is a free country, and not only did I find it offensive coming from the governor after what he said, but he's just doing a horrible job. Like, man, this is a crooked governor who doesn't know what it takes to be a governor at all and how to properly do his job, and so he takes all that frustration toward, and it's just disgusting, man. I mean, JD Vance was there with his kids to enjoy his time with his children. What's wrong with you, Gavin? This is exactly why residents of California are beginning to question themselves. Is it time to leave this state? Many people out of state are saying, why don't the residents stop complaining and move on and just move out of the state? Well, it's easy for them to say because the great people living here have friends and family. They don't want to move if they don't have to. But Gavin is putting them in that place, in that position where they very well may have to leave based on what he is doing right now with illegal immigration and his sham of taking care of the victims to the LA fires and everything else. Now, guys, let me just say one thing about there. Mel actually makes a very good point. There are a lot of residents of other states out there criticizing the residents of California. Why don't you just move? Why don't you just get yourself out of the state and move elsewhere that's more cost effective or more cheap to live in? And yes, I get it. It's easy for them to say. Because look, when you look at it in the reality of the real situation here, a lot of people have friends and family, as he pointed out, that are, very connected with California. They know how California is. They're just very familiar with the overall state in and of itself. And so it's very hard for many people to leave and just drop everything and move on. So it's not an easy thing to do for some people. It's not for everybody, and that's a point that he's making there. And it's a very interesting point because Gavin Newsom has been very, critical about that people that are, really putting up the threats of leaving the state and going to another state, that they are not a true resident. And people got very offended over that. But this is where it gets interesting, is that he goes on to say he's a terrible governor, and I mean, man, look, it's time that Gavin gets the hell out of here. He's not my governor, and he's not a great leader of California at all. I am just appalled by what he said about JD Vance. And now you have this guy partnering with Bob Iger to protect diversity, equity, and inclusion, and to protect something that Donald Trump has been trying to abolish for the past several months. It goes to show you how narcissistic this man is, and he openly loves his role as governor because of the power and the title only, strictly. That's it. He's not here for the people, he's not in it for us at all. All he does is attack Trump and JD Vance at every opportunity that he can grab hold of, and that's it. California needs to change. We aren't the state that we once were 10 years ago, heck even 5 years ago. It has changed for the worse and it's not getting better. And you know what, guys? It is a very good point that he makes there. California, alright? Mark my words, it's going to be very, very different, and if not, better if for worse if Gavin Newsom stays there as the governor. There's no doubt about that. But when you look back 5 years ago, like he pointed out, 10 years ago, it was a very different situation. And it may have not been like how it was 20 years ago, but when you're looking at where it is right now, it's really bad. And look, we know that Mel Gibson is putting it out there about how he mishandled the LA fires, how he's all supportive of the illegal immigration nonsense, and it's true. We know that Gavin is a full-on supporter about that. He goes on to elaborate further. We need a solution because we have a narcissist running the state, a power-hungry man who doesn't really care about patriots or American citizens that want to live and feel the American dream. He is supportive of illegal immigrants and not legal immigrants. Just let that sink in for a moment there. This is where we are right now. Gavin Newsom is not just a terrible governor, but an awful human being at the core, who just uses his power to attack people and go after them for no reason at all. This type of behavior needs to stop, and it has to stop fast. And you know what? It's true, it was in no way for Gavin Newsom to put himself in that position to literally criticize JD Vance for taking a quick little vacation with his kids to Disneyland in California, and how he got blasted for that by Governor Newsom. It was not a good look, and it really lost him a lot of support, even from people that are very quote-unquote loyal to Gavin Newsom. Even they saw through all of the nonsense, all of the shenanigans by Gavin, and they dropped him. And that's exactly why he is dropping in popularity by the month. Now, what's interesting about this again, yes, Mel Gibson is always going to be a critic of Gavin Newsom. Yes, people like Gavin Newsom and, James Woods are expected to be critics of Gavin Newsom. They're honestly, ones that dealt with the LA fires. They witnessed it themselves. They know exactly how things went down over there. But we know one thing about this for sure, is that Gavin Newsom is going to continue to actually act the way that he acts. He's going to continue to do things like what he did just days ago against JD Vance. He's going to do exactly what he actually always does, and how he's now partnering, like he pointed out there before, with Bob Iger, trying to protect diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how that should really be at the forefront of many movies and TV shows instead of a grounded and very well solid story to come out to entertain the audience, right? But overall, I would love to hear what everyone has to say about Mel Gibson's take on Governor Gavin Newsom. Again, this is like the third time this year that he really put him on full blast, put him in the hot seat, and it really made a mockery of him yet again. And you know what? Sometimes people like Gavin, they have to be called out. But overall, I would love to hear what you all have to say about the whole California situation and how Gavin is actually handling the state. Do you think he's doing a bad or a good job? I would love to know by all of you below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.